Welcome to Running on Ice, the coolest community in freight. I'm your host, Sydney Edwards, bringing you the latest tech updates, warehouse news, everything happening in the cold chain world. Now, you know Running on Ice, the show. You know Running on Ice, the newsletter. I write it every Wednesday and Friday. It comes out at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, covering much of the same things that I cover here on the show. So before we get into our guests of the night, let's get into some headlines. Now, logistics fintech platform Axle Payments has rebranded as Denim after closing its $126 million Series B funding round. And transportation and logistics company Schneider named company driver Patrice Cook its 2022 Ride of Pride driver. And the U.S. West Coast ports have sunk to their lowest share of U.S. import volume since the 1980s as shippers continue to choose the East Coast as destinations for their freight. For those headlines and so much more, you can log on to FreightWaves.com and you can check out more at our FreightWaves YouTube page. Subscribe if you aren't subscribed yet to get the full experience. You can also check out more on our FreightWaves app or log on to tv.freightwaves.com. We're going to take a quick break, and after this, we'll have the hot seat. Good Monday morning, and welcome to FreightWaves Now. I'm your host, Sydney Edwards, and I'm here with the one and only Anthony Smith. Larissa, I'm curious, talking to these drivers, talking to the folks that you're catching up with during these protests, what do you think they are feeling? I want to know what the environment might feel like out there right now.
Basically, it's panic.
Joining us now, without further ado, is going to be FreightWaves' very own Sydney Edwards. And for those of you who do not know, Sydney is not only the author of The Cold Chain, Running on Ice, the show, as well as the community, but additionally, she's a journalist for quite a long time. And so very super excited to have you on. Thanks for coming.
Hey, thank you so much for being on. I'm excited. It's my first time on Loaded and Rolling.
What are some of the challenges to doing that?
Yeah, and I really like that analogy, comparing it to a day of fishing, because sometimes you get a bite and sometimes you don't at all. And so on those days that you can't find the interview, something falls through, you are scrambling to make something else work. You are asking anybody to come on and just give you 10 minutes of their time to get this interview just so you can piece together something. And so that's probably the number one issue I think most people would talk about is, truly trying to find somebody to interview, somebody to say yes. I worked through the COVID-19 pandemic towards the beginning of, most of the first year of it. And when everything was going haywire and schools were closing down and hospitals were at capacity and we had no idea what this was going to turn into. And I worked during the presidential election. I worked during all of the civil injustice, situations that were happening throughout the United States. And just the fact that you have to be on your toes every single day, which I personally enjoy. I know you enjoy that too. And when something falls through, you just have to pick up the pieces and run to something else. And that's probably the number one most frustrating thing, toughest thing to get past most of those days.